This episode, George Hamilton Jr., a young conservative writer. Hello, this is Susan Stafford. Out of the box, I'm sitting here with George T. Hamilton, who's written this book, Power, Privilege, and Choice. And boy, it is a topic that's pretty hot right now, isn't it, George?
I would say so, definitely. I mean, we're living through pretty historic times, and that's what sort of inspired me, I think, to write this little essay.
Well, I think a combination comes to me for those that don't know. Let's inform them that you are an author, you are an actor, you're a speaker, and obviously you have a lot of opinions.
I have my fair share, yes.
And this book, Power, Privilege, and Choice, certainly specifies it. So we're going to go into this. Now, if I'm not mistaken, you are all of 20 years of age.
Yes, I'm 20 years old. I'm a sophomore or I just finished my sophomore year in university, and now I'm going into my junior year.
And where will you be going?
When or where?
Either or.
Right now I'm in the University of Pennsylvania, but unfortunately, due to what is going on, I think the university said that my courses will be online this semester, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm. Well, at least you're not giving up. I mean, you keep going.
Yeah, of course. I mean, it's I'm pretty used to the university system. This is my third university I've been to, and another reason why I think, as we go into discuss the book, that was a major force behind it. My time in university.
I was going to ask you, how many universities? 3, right?
Yes, three universities, and in the past 3 years, I've also lived in 3 different countries.
You know, in my book, which I'm only going to specify, I did not miss 3 different countries, by the way. I heard that. I wanted to read this to you because this is where you are, in my humble opinion, which of course I respect. So let me share this with you. In Germany, they came first for the communists. I didn't speak up because I wasn't a communist. And then they came for the Jews, and I didn't speak up because I wasn't a Jew. Then they came for the trade unions, and I didn't speak up because I wasn't a trade union. And then they came for the Catholics. I didn't speak up because I wasn't a Catholic. And then they came for me, and by that time, there was no one left to speak up.
Mm.
This is in my book, Stop the Wheel, I Want to Get Off, which is printed a few years ago. This is what your book's about, is speaking up, taking a stand, and that's what you're doing. And by the way, I call him GT. His name is George T. Hamilton. Just so you know, his father is George Hamilton. His mother is a lovely woman by the name of Kimberly Blackford, who introduced me to GT when GT wasn't even born. At the beginning.
Baby child.
A little baby boy. Why'd you write this? What has made you what's underneath? What's going on?
Well, there's so many reasons I could say why I wanted to write it. But if I had to pick one above all, I would say, as I said, lived in 3 countries in the past 3 years and went to 3 different universities. And in seeing that, especially in the universities, how things were being taught, I noticed that there was an emphasis on, and rightfully so, on saying that fascists were evil and did terrible things. And your quote is something that comes from obviously Nazi Germany, and they're completely right about that. But what they neglect to talk about is the atrocities that occurred under communist systems, under Mao, under Stalin, under Fidel, Ho Chi Minh. They never talk about that. And they only give you the ideas of Marx, and they don't tell you how that transferred into real government. And I was frustrated about that. So I went home every day, or went back to the dormitory, and I started to write my thoughts down. I was frustrated because I wasn't going to go in class and say, I'm not going to study this or anything like that. Obviously, my parents want me to graduate university, and I would like to as well. So I decided to write about it. And then I realized, well, if I took that paragraph and I put it there, and if I put that paragraph, I put it there, that kind of sounds like a script. And eventually it turned into a little book, and then I wanted to go forward with it. So yeah.
Well, let's start with, you have a lot of deep thinking statements here, but I don't know for sure where to start because it's so overwhelming with facts and truth. And I'm surprised you have the intestinal fortitude to write it, because it takes guts. Because you are going against, shall we say, the grain?
Yeah.
Yeah. So why don't we start with, what'd you learn most about the universities, the three different ones, 3 countries, 3 universities?
Yes. The universities, like anything else, all have their biases, and they've always had it, and they've always been towards the left throughout history. But I make the argument in the book that over the past 30 years, the university system, as well as the country, has grown further to the left. And what do I mean by that? Well, 1991, December of 91, the Soviet Union falls, right? And we have this moment in history where America is the superpower in the world, the first time in its history that it had no major adversary. And we thought we defeated communism. We thought that there was no one left that could rival us. And it was in that moment, I think, that a lot of professors found an opportunity, because before the fall of the the Iron Curtain, you had, of course, admirers of Marx's works in the education system, of course, but they could never really talk about it to the extent that they could after the fall of the Soviet Union, because we always had that enemy. We always had that rival. But once that rival was defeated, and once people couldn't realize or didn't remember, especially my generation, anything about communism, they could start to talk about it more and to preach about it without a negative connotation. And I think that's what really happened in the university system, is that it grew farther to the left, and Marxist ideas once again reinvented themselves and became, and as they are now, quite popular with the youth.
And why do you think the youth is so suckered in on it?
Well, I mean, we're humans in general. So, right, we're all humans, and we believe we want the least path of resistance to what we want. And liberal ideas, especially ones that are rooted in Marxism, often give that to people. They say that you can have wealth, you can have equality, you can have all the things that we all aspire for in society, without the inequality that is present in the capitalist system. Because what is capitalism besides you have a choice, you have opportunity, but that opportunity and the gamble in which you take can pay off. It also cannot, but it is the risk reward. But communism doesn't say that. Communism says, Marxist ideas say that you don't need to take that risk. That's going to be given to you because you deserve that. So it's very popular because the youth, my generation especially, focuses more on entitlements rather than elbow grease and hard work.
Amen to that. I'd rather you say it than I say it. And that's the truth. I often wonder, especially reading, we're talking right now to George T. Hamilton, Out of the Box with Susan Stafford. And George Hamilton has written the book, Power, Privilege, and Choice. And it's a dual national call to action Um, what do you think our biggest battlefield is at the present time, or can you say?
Yes, I think we're fighting a two-front. Um, I don't know if it's a war, but it's a war of ideology. One is internal, as we're seeing just today in the streets of Chicago. We are seeing a lot of people that are divided on race, divided on class. We are having an internal struggle to find out who we are as a nation and what defines us anymore. And then we have an external sort of an external issue, and that's our dominance in the world. As I said, we were the dominant power, the sole superpower after 1991. But I make the argument in the book that we have now entered the start of a second Cold War.
So help me,
And
because
world, yes.
Cold War, do you think that's with the people, for the people, by the people? You know, that sort of Cold War? Or do you think it's a new plot to one world order? Or do you,
I think what it is the same thing we had with the Soviet Union, and that's just that's dominance in the global sphere. Who is going to be the nation that the world looks up to in the UN? That is going to be the whether for good or for bad, the world police force, and that has been America for a very long time. But now China's like its Soviet Union Marxist predecessor has filled that void, that gap. And so we're in a struggle for dominance that you can see in the South China Sea. You can see with personal privacy, as we're seeing with obviously social media companies and things like this.
Mhm.
Who is going to be the nation that is going to dictate the policies that shape not only their own nation, but the world? That's the greatest sort of external rivalry threat, whatever you want to call it, that we're facing today. That's why I make the argument of the Cold War.
And let's just play a game here for a moment, that you could make a decision, whatever decision you wanted to make at this present time. What would a decision to help the world, America especially, as I speak from here as an American citizen, what would be one of the things that you think in your mind's eye that you would do first?
Well, I don't know if it can be if I were in government, because as Ronald Reagan said, government is the solution, and so I wouldn't want to mandate anything, but I would hope that in my travels at a young age and now, I've seen how the world looks at us, and they don't have a really good image of the United States. Some people do, not all have a bad image, but a great deal of people do not look towards America as this beacon of hope anymore. And why is that? Well, we have a lot of internal issues. We also, Americans, we have this thing that every empire or great nation in that's been the leader of the world has had, where we think we're better than anybody else. And the thing is that our economy may be bigger, we may have a bigger military, but the thing is that we need to. I think Americans abroad, I would hope, should try to learn more about other countries, because we have allies, and if we don't utilize those allies, and if we say we don't need them, that's going to present a lot of challenges. No empire has survived without great allies that can benefit. So I would hope that the American people would make an effort to try to understand their neighbors and to embrace them, because it would make for a stronger coalition against the East versus the West, against our Eastern counterparts.
And that's a strong and valid point. When I was traveling for the American Leprosy Missionaries with former Surgeon General Koop, I learned one thing, how proud I was to be an American, how proud I was to get back and kiss the soil. Because America, traveling as an American, wow, had such great prestige. It was such a thing, even in the third world country where you're worried about getting hit over the head because of your gold teeth. I mean, if people could only travel outside America to see how great we have had it, I don't say that now, but
I agree
how great.
100%.
Yeah. I mean, you're traveling and going to 3 countries is an education in itself. I mean,
Yeah,
most people have not. They stay where they are and they don't leave it, and they can't grow because they can't learn. But you've had that opportunity, and that's why your book is a little bit deeper than most books. Power, Privilege, and Choice. And we're talking to George T. Hamilton, and this is Out of the Box with Susan Stafford. And now here we go with a question that only you can answer. What do you think the biggest problem might be? I mean, we see the protesting, we see the police issue, we see Black Life Matters, all life matters, folks. Um, every life matters, especially those that are having abortions all the time. Those lives matter the most. Um, what 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 do you see as the biggest problem right now? The biggest problem right now in America?
um, our morale.
Uh-huh.
Americans don't, uh, at least in my generation, for sure, do not see the promise and the ideas of the American dream, of American exceptionalism. That our nation is innately exceptional, and whether that be from God or from the amount of different ideas that we've incorporated into our system, and laissez-faire capitalism, all these things. The youth doesn't buy it. And I think that's where the great struggle is happening in our country, that for right or for wrong, Americans no longer believe in America. They no longer believe in the future. We're starting to look at our past and say things were greater then, or that the peak of America's power and prosperity had already happened, and that's diminishing. And when a country does that and starts believing that it is no longer great, well, then the prophecy becomes true, and it no longer will be great. That is, unfortunately, if you look, I make the point in the book that our predecessors, the British Empire, in 1913, was a creditor nation, had the largest economy, the empire in total in the world, and it was at its peak, pretty much around that. But after that war, after the First World War, which did not need to get involved, and it bankrupted the nation, that continued to the Second World War, had to give up all its possessions, and we're facing that right now, where we're in massive amounts of debt, and that is all trickling down. There's so many issues, but what it trickles down to is that the people do not believe in their nation anymore, in the country. And that's more dangerous than any march or any external threat, is that if your people don't believe in the cause of America.
Mm-hmm. I think that after 9/11, when we saw the flags from every car that was moving, we saw after we were hit in New York, all the flags were out. It was a great feeling. It was a tremendous feeling to see how many people were supporting. Now we're talking about if we should stand for the flag, which in my humble opinion, absolutely yes, too many people died for it. So all these silly things, it seems a little upside down to me, George. Seems a little upside down. The world seems upside down to me.
Yeah, it's certainly very radical. The times we're going through, the ideas are radical, the politics are radical. This obviously this pandemic, it makes it's a hell of a year, that's for sure. Um,
Yeah,
but there's only one way it can go, really, and that's up. It has to, and otherwise we're no longer going to see ourselves on the world stage as its leader, and we
that's
ought to be.
true. That's true. And we ought to be, is right. We are going to go back up because I work with hope in my heart. I think because you're intellectual and intelligent, thank you very much, meaning the same thing. You see the hardship that has to be done in order to get back to where we need to be. You make a statement, which I just love because of the people, by the people, for the people. But you make a statement, and I'm going to sneeze on the truth, I believe. Excuse me. Pardon me.
Blood.
Pardon me. I speak the truth. Middle America is fed up with Hollywood.
Yeah.
So.
Yes, for sure, it is. I mean, there was a time, I think, in Hollywood where actors, celebrities did not really give their opinions on every issue that is presented to them, and I think that was because they understood the massive amount of influence they had over the American people, and that if they were to give their opinion on things, it might sway them in a way that would not give them the most informed way of learning about the subject.
Mm-hmm.
That has gone out the window. It's the exact opposite now. Now every star has to give their opinion on everything. And the thing is that it's scary because it's okay if, for instance, a news outlet gives their opinion on something because we trust them to gather the facts, to be knowledgeable, at least in proper journalism. But our celebrities should be the last people we should go to seek that type of advice, because number one, they live in a bubble themselves, a very big bubble amongst them, that they don't really see anything outside of their purview. So that's very dangerous. And number two, I can guarantee you most of them probably do not have degrees in journalism, have not been in journalism, have never worked for a newspaper or any of these types of things that would give them the credentials to comment. And so they're giving their, and I think the American people, the British people, I think middle America across the sort of, I guess in Canada as well, and maybe across the Anglosphere, I think we would call it, is fed up with it because they don't represent the views of the common individual, and that is what is so frustrating. And I think you're seeing a big backlash against that, and perhaps rightfully so.
Well, I don't know anymore that I used to look at certain people. My age would be John Wayne, growing up with those folks and always shooting him so he looked bigger than he was. I mean, it was a great time to be alive. Right now is a difficult time to be alive because you have to make so many decisions, and we're looking for leadership, people that we can trust. And there's a problem because there's so much fake news.
Yeah.
We don't know who's telling us what for,
Yeah.
how come.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, it's no longer Walter Cronkite, giving us the facts. It's be it on the left and on the right. And believe me, as someone who is more of a conservative, I have no issue in saying that both on the left and right, they're both extremely biased towards their the people that they are trying to their demographics. And I think that's a terrible thing, because we're no longer focusing on the facts. We're focusing on my view or your view, but not the view that is that is factual and that's
Well
going to
said.
give the most informed decision.
Well
And that's a
said.
shame.
That's very well said, especially since you're not pontificating. I would have to say that that's right on. What is that? We have something happening, but it's music. We don't know. And anyway, one of the things, it's music, background music for
Yes,
for Hollywood. Uh, it
because
must
they're
be
in
a
La
little,
La Land, right?
yeah, that's the truth. Um, I used to love it. So um, I do think that the question I'm going to ask you is not to trap you. It's just because I really want to know. And if I want to know, then they want to know. So would you ever consider running for an office?
Yeah, I mean, I think probably since I was a little boy, I was fascinated with politics, with government. Um, I I have a passion, I would say, for political uh, ideologies.
Mm-hmm.
And if I were to run, of course, I think one day, yes. The short answer is yes, but I'm trying to give you a political answer, like a good politician would, I suppose. But I think it's what we're lacking in government on both sides is statesmanship. We have our politicians, but we have no statesmen. We have nobody who is in office in the Senate or in the House or anywhere or in Parliament that can really um use rhetoric and debate as if we were in the Roman Senate itself. Uh, that's what we've lacked. We've lost the art of what it meant to be a statesman, and the generosity in it, and the individuals that on both sides of the aisle. If you look back in our history, you could say H.W. Bush was that way. Brian Mulroney of Canada, the Prime Minister of Canada. Obviously Churchill. These sort of even Wilson or Roosevelt. We don't have that, and so I would hope that if I ever did, if I ever was so lucky to be elected to an office, that I would be able to learn and be a statesman, not a politician, because there's a big difference. We don't have any statesmen that I know of in office on both sides.
Nobody comes to mind right now. I have my favorites who I think speak the truth, but that doesn't mean anything. No, I don't think so. Right now we're talking to George T. Hamilton, son of George Hamilton, and of course, who's a great actor and has done a lot of work. And you've been acting, you've done some acting. You want to share with me your acting?
Well, I wouldn't. We were on a reality show about 5 years ago. I wouldn't necessarily call that acting. And here's where I make the difference. Obviously, my father turns 81 tomorrow.
Oh.
Yeah, amen. And what he is able to do and what his friends are able to do, the skill, the craft, the time needed in order to become an actor and to perform is something that it takes skill and takes a lot of effort. Whereas being on a reality show was very different. It didn't take great skill. It wasn't
No,
an art. It was
no.
so I don't know if it was acting, but it was I guess I don't know if it was enjoyable, but it was certainly I was enlightened because I started to understand Hollywood a lot more after being involved in the reality show, because I saw how that was put together, and it gave me great insight, which which probably I would say some way helped me in writing my in writing Power, Privilege, and Choice.
We're talking to the man that's written the book right here, and it's worth reading. And by the way, where can they buy this?
Yes, it's solely on Amazon. So you just type in Power, Privilege, and Choice on Amazon, and you can buy it there, or you can follow me on Instagram because the link is in the bio there. And so my Instagram would be George_T_Hamilton, and then you can click on the link there, and you can buy it.
One of the things here is I just asked if you had a choice between being an actor or a statesman, which you might prefer, or are they same? They might be the same. I don't know.
Well, I think they're both. They can be very theatrical. I can only imagine what it was like to be in British Parliament 50 years ago, and hearing what they were discussing. But I would say statesmanship for the reason that I think being in government, you can really affect people's lives on a level that, while possible in acting and being a social influencer, not to the extent. And I would hope that if I were in government, that I could enact the things that I believe in. That's what's important to me. Acting's great. I've watched it from my father all my life, but I want to get involved if I can in the future, and being on the ground, being with the people, and listening to what they believe in, and moving forward, and trying to enact meaningful change.
Mm-hmm. That's a good cause. That's a good cause. I'd like to hear everybody say and do that. How long did it take you to put this little pamphlet, this book together, Power, Privilege, and Choice?
I would say it took me about 4 or 5 months.
Mm-hmm.
I was in Canada at the time studying, and that's where I really got some of the inspiration to write, because America's can be conservative, Britain's somewhat, Canada's pretty liberal, and so seeing that, especially by the time I got to Canada, I had enough ammunition to write what became Power, Privilege, and Choice.
Did you know that you were a good writer?
Well, I don't. I will leave that decision up to the reviewers on Amazon, if I'm good or if I'm not. But I will tell you, it was an interesting challenge for someone my age. I was 19 when I started writing it. To go home every day from school and make sure you write 250 words or whatever it was a day. It wasn't always easy. But I'm a person who believes in persistence. You have to persevere. And in doing so, little by little, I realized that I formed a script. And so I hope whomever reads it will come off with a positive view on the writing and the content. Or if not, I'd love to hear the constructive criticism, because if we don't continually improve, we start to regress, and we don't want that. I don't want that. So I welcome everyone's sort of beliefs and their view on it. I look forward to reading some of the reviews, the good and the bad ones.
It takes both, I suppose. What will you be taking at the university? I'm
studying a multitude of things, but always going back to the humanities. Politics is so important. History is so important. These are the things that I care about a lot, and I want to continue to study them, and hopefully take that knowledge and I don't know, perhaps write another book.
Now, what would that be on, do you suppose?
Oh, we'll save that. Well, you know what? I will write another book. I have to wait and see if the people uh, who listen to obviously your cast and such like the book or not. If they
Mhm.
like it, then it gives me the motivation to write it again. So we'll save that for next time,
Okay.
I suppose.
Let me tell you that are listening here, and we're talking to George T. Hamilton. Let me tell you something about this book. It will challenge you. It says power, privilege, and choice. It will challenge you. It'll also teach you what you don't know, maybe even about yourself. And so for that, I say, go ahead and go on Amazon and get the book. And write George, because you can see that he's saying, go ahead and write me. I'm open. Isn't that what you're saying?
Yeah, I mean, if you write the reviews on Amazon, I read them. If you follow me on Instagram and DM me about the book, I'll respond and give my thoughts or critique anything. It'd just be a pleasure, to hear anything that you have that anyone has to say. That's what it is, Godmother. The point of this book, more than anything, is I'm going to look back 20 years from now on this. And in many ways, I'm going to be happy that I had written it. And in many ways, I'm going to be embarrassed because my mental capacity is going to change in the next 20 years, along with my experience and all these things.
Hopefully.
But to, but to hear people's thoughts on it now, and to have that is something that's just going to continue to help me, because I don't think that we need to continue to grow, and we need to continue to learn things. I'm very young. I realize that, and that there can be flaws in my writing. I want people to show me what they like and what they don't like, and I want to use their critique and their praise alike to help me form a better consensus of who I am and what I stand for.
Don't you believe, or do you believe, that makes the difference and why you make a difference? The reason you're doing the show is because you make a difference. This book makes a difference. Your opinion makes a difference because you're willing to stand up and say so. A lot of people aren't. They haven't thought through. They couldn't write the first word. You have written a book now. And
Yes.
this way you're gonna get response, good, bad, or ugly, as we say.
Absolutely.
But at least you've done it. So therefore you make a difference. You're not talking, you're doing. You're delivering. We're not saying blah, blah, blah. We're saying, here, get the book. It's at Amazon. Go ahead, go for it. Yeah, because you're making your opinions, and maybe in 5 years they'll change. Who knows?
Yes, yeah. And I just want to make, a big thing for me, and the great challenge that I had, not in the content or the ideas, but the actual writing and publishing and editing, design cover of the book, was that I faced a lot of criticism by friends, by family members, that said, "Well, you can't do that. It has to be done this way or that way. Oh, you're too young," and things like that. And I just want to people to know that whether the parents are listening or if somebody around my age is listening, that take the chance, write it down. Don't if you have an idea, please go forward with it. You're especially when you're at my age, you have nothing to lose. It doesn't matter if the book is a success or a complete failure, because you have your whole life ahead of you. So you might as well take the opportunity now, because if you don't, 20 years from now, you might regret it. And so that was my thought process throughout the whole thing, that no matter what people say, that I'm going to do this, because this is the time to do it. This is the time when I have the most freedom in my life and the most ability, and my ideas. When you're 20 years old, right? ideas are flowing in and out. You're a sponge soaking up the world. You're trying to understand things because you've just left your teenage years. They're telling you you're an adult. What does that mean? What taxes? What's that? It's like sucking up all of that as a sponge. Write your ideas down. Go forward with it. Take a chance. It's much better than not doing it and regretting it later on.
Well, the thing is that you took a chance, you did it, and now we have it in black and white. Boy, do we have you now. We've got it right here in black and white. I do believe that if everybody could take the time to care, to do what you did, because what you did was you cared. You got agitated, you started writing about it. You got upset with this, that, and the other. You started writing about it. You started putting down, like we do journals, when you said, power, privilege, and choice. What's going on? And next time we can put upside down world, what's going on? It's about the same. But I wanted to urge them one more time that I'm talking with George T. Hamilton. That's who you're seeing. And this is who has written the book right here, Power, Privilege, and Choice. And guess what? It's your choice to go get it. Order it. Do it now. Why? You'll enjoy it. That's why. It's easy. Wouldn't have you go out and get a book that wasn't enjoyable. So I really thank you. And I wanted to just tell you that, you don't find life worth living. You have to make it that way. And that's what you're doing.
Well, yes, I suppose, I just, as I said, there's just so much opportunity in the world, and most people will tell you no, but don't listen to them, don't break the law, but, don't listen to people who tell you that you can't do something. You can. It's just persistence. That's it. You don't have to be the smartest guy in the room. Lord knows I'm not. You give me a math equation, I think it's, Chinese. I don't understand it, and so, but if you have a passion, go forward with it. And so, it's my little book, and I hope some people read it. As Godmother said, it's on Amazon, and if you want to follow me on Instagram, that'd be nice too. As I said, it's George_T_Hamilton. And I'd love to hear you praise and critique alike. That would be really great.
I used to ask people, if you had a choice between luck, timing, or looks, which one would you want, George? And I just answered it while you were talking about your booklet and people following you on Instagram. And it would be, you have the luck, and you have the talent, and you have the looks. So God be with you, because you're doing really great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And we'll, again, tell you, you can go on Instagram. It's okay. It's cool. If you want to do that, he's not bad to look at either, is it? Come on, let's face it. And he's intelligent. Boy, there's a combination. So George T. Hamilton, thank you for being our guest today on Out of the Box with Susan Stafford. And thank you for talking about the truth of power, privilege, and choice. Bye-bye now.
Love you.